There we go. Okay, welcome everybody to our session Introduction to Homeschooling 2025-2026. So this session is focused on gearing up for fall, and we're in April right now. So from April to October 1st, everybody is looking at homeschooling options and how it all works and who they should register with, what they should do, they should pick. And tonight, I hope that we can answer your questions. So I have with me here Krista Jorgensen, who is also on the board at Alberta Homeschooling Association. And I'm Judy Arnall, and I'm on the board too. And we love doing webinars together, co-hosting. So Krista, do you want to give like a little introduction of yourself? What's your background? How long have you been homeschooling? What led you into homeschooling?
Sure. My name's Krista, and I'm on the Alberta Homeschooling Association. I guess, how long have I been on the association? Maybe 2, 3 years now. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah. And it was so helpful to me when I moved to Alberta because I started out in Ontario homeschooling my two kids. And they were in like junior kindergarten, and now they're all the way up in grade 5 and 7. And yeah, we started homeschooling due to some health issues with my kids, and it turned out that we really loved homeschooling, and they got to be like the very best friends with each other, and uh, it was just it's been so nice, and we really love it. So that's why we homeschool, and I hope that you guys will all love homeschooling too if you decide to do it. You definitely can. Anybody can do it.
Great. Excellent. Thank you, Krista. And I I've been into it a little longer than Krista. My kids are older. So I put my two oldest kids into school, and then about grade two and grade three, they just hated it. They just wouldn't go anymore. They didn't want to be there. It was a battle every day to get them there. And I thought, well, let's try it. Let's try homeschooling. And we did, and we loved it. We absolutely loved it. And it took us a couple months to figure out this is not like homework when they're in school. This is not like online school. This is really different. It's like a field trip every day. And what child doesn't like that? Um, so we had fun, and every year I'd ask the kids, well, what do you want to do this year? You want to go online? You know, as they get into junior high, the content gets a little more dicier for me. My math ends at grade 8, and they still wanted to keep going all the way through to high school. So all my kids got a diploma. They got the Alexander Rutherford Scholarship. They got other scholarships, and they all got accepted into professional programs at university. And we've been to 4 graduations so far. So some of my kids have been working in their careers now for going on 7 years. So, and they still look back and think, best thing ever. So we hope you can, we're going to dispel a lot of myths. There's so many myths out there about homeschooling in the media, in portrayed during COVID. So we hope to answer your questions with um, those answers. This picture, by the way, is Sir Ken Robinson, who came to Calgary Teachers Convention in 2013 and talked about how schools kill creativity. And he's no longer with us, but he is an amazing, one of the most watched TED Talks on YouTube. So if you get a chance, look up Sir Ken Robinson. And so you're a veteran home educator already. Every parent of a newborn is a teacher, and you're doing it right. Your child displays an interest, and you think, "Oh, I'm going to sign them up for that, or I'm going to get some books on that." And that's what you do. You notice what your child is interested in, and nothing says that you have to put them in school at age 5 or 6. You can keep going. Most parents can teach the content, even without teachers' manuals, till about grade 8. And then kids are teenagers, they're 13, and they can either go online with teachers who are subject matter specialists, or they could keep going and self-teach with the help of tutors, or you can keep teaching them if you're really up to the curriculum and if you still want to. There's lots of options. The important thing to remember is you're only committing for a year. So if it doesn't work out this year, you can put your kids back into school. The next grade, they will not be behind. They go in whatever grade pertains to their age. So if you pull them out for grade 2 this year and it's a disaster, which it won't be, you can put them in next fall into grade 3, no problem. So don't worry about that. Okay, I have a lot of slides here. I'm not going to go through them all, just in the interest of time, because I want to leave time for questions, but I'm going to just go through the major ones I think is important. So in Alberta, you actually don't have to teach on home education. What you're saying to the government when you notify is that you are taking back the responsibility for your child's education. So that doesn't mean you have to teach. It means that you are going to be the general contractor of their education and you are going to source out various parts if you want. So you might try a curriculum, you might hire a tutor, you might put them in a co-op or a forest school, you might get your nanny to teach them how to read. Maybe you're going to be unschooling and let the students or your child self-teach. And there's a lot of one-time, one registration online courses like through Course Academy and things where you can just pick and choose like a buffet of what your child's interested in. And you don't have to sign up for a whole semester or a whole year of online school. You don't have to commit. You can just get your feet wet. And those are actually better for young kids because their attention span, we learned during COVID, they're not designed to sit online 5 hours a day. Yet, the Alberta education mandates that schools deliver 1,000 hours in a school year via for instruction. So a lot of it is sitting online, but we've learned from COVID, and Alberta education has learned that that just doesn't work. So it's getting less and less screen time, but it's still, if you're gonna put your kids online, you are signing them up for school, and it is going to be a lot more work. Yeah. Now, the only exams that homeschoolers have to take are if they want credits and marks in grade 12 courses, the core courses. So English, social studies, the sciences, languages like French, English language arts, and social studies. If they want marks and credits, they have to write the diploma exams in grade 12. But that's it. They don't have to write grade by grade exams. They don't have to write the provincial achievement tests. Okay, I kind of did an introduction, so I'm skipping over this. And that. Okay, I do want to show you this. So this is learning in action. So every child that breathes learns. So this is a neuron sending a neurotransmitter down an axon to a neighboring dendrite of a neighboring neuron. And this is what learning is. It's closing that synapse with a connection, a neurotransmitter connection. This didn't stop during COVID. Kids kept learning. Any child that breathes learns. What happened during COVID was that kids stopped learning the government agenda, but that doesn't mean they stopped learning other things. They learned their own agenda. So every child who home educates progresses, every child learns, every child advances in their development, their academic learning, their cognitive skills, their social skills, every day of their life. So there is no way someone can come in and say, your child's not learning anything. You have to put them back into school because every child and every adult is learning. Okay. The other thing to know is in Alberta, education is not where it takes place. Education is who is responsible and who controls decisions. So if you home educate, you're the parent, you are in the driver's seat of the car. Let's say it's a car. Your child's a car. So you're in the driver's seat. You make all the decisions. You decide what they learn, when they learn, how they learn. It's your it's your baby. If you sign them up for school, then you're putting the school in the driver's seat and they decide everything. Okay, they decide what your child learns, when, where, and how. So, yeah. Why do I have two of these? Okay, never mind. Um, so people choose home education for a whole bunch of reasons. Anything we get parents who kids are being bullied, we get parents who want to go travel, we get parents who don't agree with the curriculum, we get parents whose kids are feeling anxiety still since COVID, and all of them are making choices for their child based on their child's best interests. So in in home education, your child's needs come first. And of course, yours as a family too. Absolutely. And your other siblings. But that comes first. Whereas if you put your child into a school, their needs don't always come first. Their needs can take a back seat to other concerns that are relevant. So a lot of people have various reasons for choosing homeschooling. Okay, here we go. One thing I'm gonna say here, a lot of parents worry that they have to entertain their kids all day. And that's not true. I mean, maybe it's true for the first week until you don't entertain your kids and they realize, oh, I have to fill my own time. So um, yeah. So don't worry about that. Kids who are used to owning a lot of time don't need adults to entertain them. Absolutely. They find things to do, they find projects, they get very creative and use a lot of initiative. Okay, there are a lot of places that people learn. School is only one place to learn, but when I say you could go on a field trip every day, you could. A lot of times I people would say, "Well, how's homeschooling going?" And I'd say, "Well, we haven't been home much. Like we have to quit all these activities we're doing and stay home once in a while. We're actually out in the community a lot and learning in the community. You know, whether you go to a library day or you go for groceries, that's great for learning math and reinforcing those math skills. Volunteering or meeting up at park days. Those are all big parts of homeschoolers' life. And although we say, it takes a tenth of the time to homeschool, and it really does, you're not dealing with 30 kids in a classroom, you're dealing with your child. So it's way, way less time. But if you count, the grocery trip and the library trip and the park day, those are could be instructional time. So, very much so, children learn everywhere. It's not just at school, and from many, many people too out in the community. So, here's a decision tree, what you're going to have to make decisions about. So, first of all, you have your child here and their brain that you're going to educate. So, your first decision is, do I want to do school or do I want to do it myself? Am I going to take on responsibility under home education or am I going to put them in school? So let's say I'm not ready to jump into home education yet. I'm going to do school, but maybe I'd like them to do school at home. So then you decide, are you going to do distance education? And what that's called in Alberta is teacher directed or print-based resource or correspondence is what we used to call it. Or you could do classroom, and classroom's a traditional school. Now, if you do distance education, so you want them at home, but you want them on with a teacher doing the Alberta curriculum. So then you have to decide, do I want an online program where a lot more of their assignments are online? I would suggest don't do that until at least grade 7, grade 8. So they have a little more self-control, attention span, a little more academic power to, handle drop boxes and all the digital requirements. Otherwise, you're going to be playing a huge support role there in helping them. So you'd have to plan to, really be close to home and available to help them this year if they're going to start online. Um, Eventually they do get more independent, but that first year is a big learning curve for them. I found with my 5 kids. Oh yeah, did I say I had 5 kids? Yeah, I did. Okay. Then if you don't want them online as much, and maybe you have a grade sixer, and then you want to go more teacher directed, what that is you sign up for school, teacher directed. The school board will send a box of books and assignments to your front door. And you, as a parent, have to be, again, playing a huge support role. You have to unpack that, partition it out in a calendar, see how much time you can allot for each section in each subject, because you have to follow the Alberta programs of study. So that really requires a big support role from parents. And the downside is it's not your agenda. It's not your what you want to teach. You are supporting somebody else's teaching, but in a much bigger way than sending them into a classroom, for sure. The other thing too is if you have a grade 1, grade 2 that's not reading yet, you have to read everything out to them and direct them. And you're actually stepping into a teacher role, which you're not really supposed to do according to Alberta education, but a teacher is not going to come to your house and do it. Okay. So that's that. And then if you decide, no, I want more control. I want to home educate. I want to decide what they learn, or you know what? Maybe I do want to follow the Alberta programs of study, but if my child hates doing something, we can drop it. You can't do that on this side. You can do it on this side. So, so then you decide, okay, am I going to be funded by a school authority, or am I going to go for the non-funding, just tell the government route? And if you're going to go the non-funding route, probably about 1/6 of home educators last year went this route, mostly because they pulled their kids out after October 1st. They pulled their kids out mid-year. They don't have much choice to other than to go to that route. But most home educators go the funded and the supported by a school authority route, just because it puts up a firewall between you and the government, because then they become your support system. They advocate for you. They give you funding. And anytime you need help, you're assigned a facilitator. You can pick up the phone and say, hey, my son's not writing. He resists it. What do I do? And you'll get answers. So I personally think that's a better route to go. Then you have to decide if you're gonna go with a secular board or a faith-based board. And most of the faith-based boards are they're faith-based, but you don't have to be faith-based to join with them, and you don't have to teach religion if you don't want to. The only thing is a lot of their correspondence is faith-based, so it has a faith philosophy. After that, then you choose, well, how am I going to home educate? Am I going to use a co-op? Am I going to sign up for a pod? Am I going to teach them? Or am I going to unschool, which is the child follows their interests and self-teaches? And then you put together a home education plan And you can have the help of a facilitator to do that once you sign up. And then, um, and then you decide, am I going to follow the 22 very basic home education outcomes, which, your child could play Minecraft all year and meet those outcomes? Or are you going to follow the 1,400 outcomes of the Alberta Programs of Study per grade? Or you're going to do half and half or a bit of both. If you want the most flexibility, follow the 22 solo outcomes because you can do the Alberta Programs of Study, but you're not going to be held accountable for that. So when your facilitator comes in the spring and says, "Oh, you've been following the Alberta Programs of Study," you can also say, "I think we kind of changed to the the other outcomes, the 22." We all start out with best intentions. And then you're going to have two facilitator visits a year, and one in the fall and one in the spring. And then that's it. You're done, and you decide next summer, am I going to do this again? Am I going to stay with the same board? Am I going to change anything? And you don't have to wait till summers to change anything. You can change anything anytime mid-year. Okay, Krista, anything I've missed there? Anything you want to add?
No, we just had a question though. Someone's asking, has anybody failed the home visits or does it create problems for anybody with CPS? And then this person said, maybe I've watched too many movies, LOL.
Oh, that's such a great question.
It
And
is.
I don't know anybody who has failed a home visit. We're not marked on it. In fact, I know personally myself, I have asked two facilitators to leave my house because one time they were harassing my daughter that she didn't have enough writing samples and she was in tears. And then I was in tears. And then I said, you know what? Time to go. And then I just called the principal later and he gave me a new facilitator who was super wonderful and more in line with my philosophy. So absolutely no. I know the regulations are written in a very adversarial, scary language, and we have been asking the government to change that so it's a little more supportive. But I don't know anybody who has ever had children's services called on them. And I've been home educating 26 years. And I don't know anyone who's ever failed to visit at all. How about you, Krista? Do you know anyone? Because I don't.
Um, I knew someone in Ontario that happened to.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, that's kind of irrelevant because it's Ontario. And actually, someone else was telling me that it did happen to her, but what she did was she told her facilitator, and the facilitator was able to contact the CPS and say, no, she's homeschooling with us, and she's done her visit, and it's all fine and good here. And then the file was closed. She didn't even have to talk to CPS herself. So,
Yeah, yeah. I'm quite sure a lot of relatives, and we get relatives contacting us at Alberta Homeschooling a lot that say, "Hey, don't they have to follow a certain curriculum or, don't they have to be homeschooling a certain number of hours a day?" And we tell them what the regulations are and say no and no. And but they're concerned relatives and they're probably, calling children's services and children's services, they know the regulations in Alberta too. You have the right to teach your kids whatever you want, however and whenever. So the beauty too about going supervised with a homeschooling board is at the end of every year you get a teacher write-up of what your child's doing, and he or she signs off as a certified teacher that your child is progressing. Now, it doesn't say, oh, your child's learned fractions, your child has mastered polynomials. It just says your child's progressing. And like I said at the beginning, every child progresses. But that is a really good form that is good for partners that are in a high conflict divorce, or if children's services does knock at your door, you can say, here, it's working. So that's another reason probably to go with a board.
Yeah. I think we need to say though too that it's like really rare. Like that's probably not going to happen to you or to anybody you know. So I think like take a deep breath and let it go. But if you go with a school board, then you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, yeah. And there's no need to pay an insurance company like
Oh yeah, no need.
some of those insurance companies out there that prey on parents' fears. You do not need to do that. You have the regulations behind you, and it's fine. It's so fine. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna cover a little bit on unschooling. So what time are we at, Krista? Oh, we're about
It's
6 hours.
7:34.
Okay. How about we go? I'll go to 7:45 and then we'll um take questions.
Sounds good.
Okay. So unschooling, you may have heard, it's a type of home education where instead of the parent deciding what the child needs to know, the child just follows their interest. So it's kind of a educational freedom in which kids' natural curiosity, and they're all curious and motivated to learn. Um, in that environment, you just follow their interests, follow what they're interested in. And if you do that, surprisingly enough, you will, especially in the elementary years, you will probably cover everything they cover in school without intending to. It's pretty amazing. So kids naturally gravitate to, every child wants to learn to read. They want to play board games. They're embarrassed if they can't read the cards. They want to learn about magnets and how, boats stay on the water. They want to learn how airplanes fly. They want to learn what are churches for. Like they're super curious. And the beauty of this is you strike when the coals are hot. When they're interested, you get some resources together, you give them information, and they're motivated to learn it because it's their questions. It's not your questions, it's their questions. And pretty well, you can take this type of education delivery all the way to probably to high school. High school is when the rubber meets the road, and kids kind of have to decide, am I going to go for credits and marks in subjects, or am I just going to keep on home educating or unschooling? So a child could, well, my kids did, unschool all the way to grade 10. Except my kids did do a grade 8 math course, which is probably pretty good because four of them went into STEM careers, which is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Um, but they didn't do any formal English, social studies, sciences until grade 10. And then they met the outcomes. So they went from the 22 solo outcomes to meeting the Alberta programs of study. But they still did it under home education. So it was a lot more flexible for them. For example, I have four boys. None of those boys like Shakespeare. And surprisingly enough, it's not mandated in the outcomes that they have to do Shakespeare. So they didn't. They chose other things to read and write about. So it's you can do it a bit more flexible. So you can stay on all the 22 solo outcomes until high school and then switch over, and then they can go right into high school, get marks and credits, and go on to wherever they want to go on. Okay, I'm not going to cover the history. or that, or that, or that. Okay, one thing I'm going to mention is that Alberta is outcome based. So what that means is even teachers in schools don't have to use certain resources to teach something. They have an outcome, such as teaching kids about color in grade 1. So one teacher may say, oh, I'm going to get the kids to paint today and mix colors. And another teacher may say, oh, I'm going to cover this by taking my kids to the museum and they can learn about art at the museum. So it's very much centered around the learner and how they want to learn and the parent and teacher and how much mess they want. So it is very much outcome based. So in Alberta, it's based on grades from grades 1 to 9. And then in high school, it's based on individual courses from grades 10 to 12. Yeah. So, um, so this, I will explain this. So this is basically everybody in the province who has school age kids has to pick one of these. So 95% of the 750,000 kids in the province pick public or Catholic public schools. They're governed by the Education Act and trustees that are elected because it's very public. They have to teach the 1,400 outcomes per grade, and they can offer classroom, print, or online. So you see, it can still be at home, but it is very much school. Then 3 to 4% of the school age kids go to independent schools. They too are governed by the Education Act, but they have a board of directors running them instead of trustees. They have to teach the Alberta programs of study, and they too can deliver classroom, print, or online. But they only get 60 to 70% of the funding of public full funding schools. Then there are charter schools. Charter schools are governed again by the Education Act, but answer directly to the minister. They don't have trustees, they don't have a board of director. They too have to teach the Alberta programs of study. They also can offer classroom, print, or online, and they are fully funded. The only difference here is parents have a lot more say in charter schools. And then the last one is so different from everyone else is home education. This is the only type that is funded where parents get money, reimbursement money. We do not have to, we follow the home education regulations that are within the Education Act, and we don't have to teach the Alberta programs of study. We can teach the 22 schedule of learning outcomes for home ed. But you have to sign up for this by September 29th or the last business day in September. If you miss that deadline, you don't get funding, and then you just notify with the government until the next year. So no funding, no homeschool support if you miss that deadline. So pick your board by then. This too can have a classroom or a print or an online component. So you could do a shared program of part home education and part one of these. It's up to you, which is kind of nice. Some parents call that a hybrid option, um, but you share the funding and then you divvy up the responsibilities. So, for example, if you don't want to teach math and English, you can outsource that back to the public or the independent schools, and you can do under home education, science, social studies, art, and phys ed. Yeah, so it's kind of half and half, which is kind of nice. Now, realistically, not a lot of homeschooling boards offer that. Yeah. Okay, so, and Krista, anything on that you want to add that I missed?
Um, no, I don't think so. I think you did a great job. There's someone asking for people who choose to go in the non-funded route for homeschooling,
Mhm.
do they still have to send anything in, and how do they keep track of your kids with that sort of thing?
Okay, yes. You do have to send a notification form in. I do have one too. Let me just check. Every year you have to send some type of notification form in. This one is the one you send in when you want funding with a school, a homeschooling school board. Okay. If you notify direct with the government, the regulations say that you do have to have a home education plan in your brain, but you don't have to have it on paper or send it in to anyone. Okay. That's the difference. If you go with a homeschooling board, you do have to have your plan on paper. Yep. So how does the government keep track? They all they know is your child has an Alberta student number. Every child in Alberta has an Alberta student number, unless they're totally off the grid. Not me. Well, there's probably some that are totally off the grid, but generally, they do have a student number. So that student is recorded in PASSI as being somewhere, whether it's public, charter, independent, or home education, um, non-funding or home education funding. Okay, so they are somewhere. That's how they keep track of your kids. And I don't know what happens if you don't sign your kids up for school or don't send a regulation form. Probably the government, that might be truancy, but the beauty about Alberta government is truancy is not a punishing thing anymore. It's more let's have a conversation with the family and figure out what's the problem. Why is this child not being registered somewhere for an education? So yes, so this is the home education when you're notifying with a homeschooling board. And I have one of the other one somewhere. Sorry, I don't know where it is now. But there it is, right there. This one says not supervised by school authority. So it's right at the top. So you will not get funding or support. Notice if you don't know your Alberta student number, say you have a kindergarten child this year, leave it blank. They'll assign one. That's no problem. And your child will have that all the way until they register with post-secondary. So all the way until they turn 20, they are funded and are eligible to receive a funded education. Okay. Um, this is something I want to talk about. So if you're going supervised home education, here's where part B, you have to decide if you're going to do the Alberta Programs of Study or the outcomes in the schedule, which is the solo outcomes. Or you could do both. You can check both of those if you want, or you can just, I would say, just check the solo ones, unless they're going for high school credits, and then you have to do the Alberta Programs of Study one. Um, just do that one. Now, what really, really scares parents is this. Parents who provide home education programs acknowledge that there are implications when they choose to use programs different from the Alberta Programs of Study. Students may not apply to a high school principal for high school credits. Students may not receive an Alberta high school diploma. So what that is saying is that children, if they're getting credits and a government diploma, they have to meet the outcomes of the courses in the Alberta Programs of Study. That's all it's saying. It doesn't mean that if they home educate for high school, they can't get a diploma. That's not true. High school kids who are home educated absolutely get a diploma, and it doesn't even show up on their transcript. It's that they're home educated. Universities don't know because the credits are reported by a school board, and the school board number shows up on the transcript. Okay. All right. Krista, do we have any more questions?
We've had lots, but I've been trying to answer them in the chat. Um,
Okay. We want them on the recording. So maybe we should open it up. I'm just going to say funding. You want to save your receipts like we're in April. So a lot of boards take receipts from January 1st of this year all the way to next summer. Well, usually next May is the deadline to get them in. So, but believe me, you're going to have way more receipts than you have funding. So I don't know about you, Krista, but I just threw them in a shoebox. And then when it was time to go through, I just picked the biggest bills like
yeah,
piano lessons or, things to get your money, but not a lot of picky stuff.
yeah, it makes it easier.
Yeah. So you don't get issued a check from your board. You have to submit receipts of things you've purchased for your child's program. And it has to be under the home education plan on your plan. And I'll show you a copy of the plan. This is your home education plan. Doesn't have to be super detailed. These are the 22 outcomes. Um, these first two are for English. So read for information, understanding, and enjoyment. Write and speak clearly, accurately, and appropriately for the context. So it doesn't say your child needs to learn pronouns by age grade 2. It's not that specific at all. So anything you want to buy, you put in here under resources, and you also put activities you're going to do. So go to the library and get bedtime books. And assessment, observation. I use observation for a lot of things because you're the parent, you're the teacher, you're learning how much your child's learning all day. So, um, this two-page plan, and it's a work in progress. You're not going to be held accountable to this exact plan at the end of the year. You can change it anytime you want. Anytime. No problem. It's your plan. Okay. Should we take questions? Krista, do you want me to read them or what should we do?
Sure, you can go ahead and read them, or do you want me to read them?
I can see them now.
One of them, the first one was really specific about BCS and having trouble getting in. Um, I just need to scroll and find where it is. So that I kind of answered. She seemed to think that they've closed all their registrations for 2025, 2026, but it said on their website when I looked that they've just temporarily closed it. So maybe she should try again later or contact them, I suggested.
Yep. Good plan. Okay.
Um, The next, okay, we did that one about, oh, this person, I think this is worth mentioning. She says she's been home educating for several years and her facilitator has always been extremely supportive and answered questions. Um,
Oh, and facilitators are. I mean, everybody looks at that spring visit with terror. I know I did. I can't say that went away. It's like getting called to the principal's office. It still hovers, right? But then you get into it, you have tea and coffee and they joke with your kids and they write down some comments and it just feels good after, it's a nice visit and you can ask questions and they're supposed to be your support person. So,
yeah, I always find like, and I've been really lucky, I think, but if you find a good facilitator, like you should leave your facilitator meeting feeling like empowered. You should feel like, yeah, I'm doing a great job. I did the right thing for my kids, and you should feel really good about it.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I have the 22 outcomes up here, so you could actually see how very, very broad they are. Someone asked, what curriculum did I use for grade 10, 11, 12? Basically, what we did was we got the textbooks from the list on Alberta Education. And we have the list of textbooks under our high school tab on our website at albertahomeschooling.com, which are textbooks which absolutely meet all the outcomes at high school. They're about to change the curriculum for junior high, high school, but I think that's years coming down the road yet, so I wouldn't worry about it. But basically, we have some sample curriculum plans out there if you want to follow the Alberta programs of study exactly. A lot of parents use faith-based high school curriculum that works for them. Um, Basically, math is math, chemistry is chemistry, biology is biology. It hasn't changed much in since 2007. 2007 was the year they overhauled all the sciences and math. And half my kids were in the old program, half my kids in the new program. So it hasn't changed. So if you're buying any keys or Solero books on high school courses, make sure they're older than 2008. Don't buy anything older than that because it's the old curriculum.
Someone said, will with all the options, is it as long as they write the grade 12 exams, they graduate with a diploma and can that they use that for post-secondary?
They won't get a diploma, but they will have grade 12 core courses and marks, which is all they need to go to post-secondaries. So all the major universities across Canada, and my 5 kids applied to 11 of those universities, they only require certain courses for each program. So, for example, for nursing, your child would need English, social, chemistry, biology, and math. So they would need 5 diploma exams for that. Um, a diploma, that you have to have a certain number of credits in option courses and career and life management in phys ed, but many people who home educate don't go for a diploma because they don't really need it. Yeah.
Someone else said, I'm a perfectionist and I'm worried about filling out the learning plan correctly to the school board of choice.
Oh, yes. Don't worry about it. Do whatever you can. Um, and we have sample plans on the Alberta Homeschooling. Actually, we have sample plans on our website at Alberta Homeschooling under resources. Scroll all the way down and you'll get some sample plans, what they look like. You'll look at those and you'll think, okay, I can do this. They're so simple. So yeah, you don't have to, you're not a teacher. You're not doing lesson planning and assessment. You're not expected to do that because you're not a teacher. So you can make it as basic as you want. If your facilitator wants to know more, they will contact you and just fill it out.
Okay, this person says, do you happen to know if I fill out the My Pass form to inform the government of my intent to home educate my child halfway through their 10th grade year, currently at a campus-based public school in Edmonton? Will they retain the credit on their Alberta transcript for the courses that they completed in the first semester of the school year? I know they're not going to get credit for the courses that they're halfway through this semester.
Yes, if they received a mark, um, and some sort of paperwork from the school, like report cards they should have got, that they have a mark and credits, and that stays on their transcript forever. So that will never go away. They're done that, right? Um, if you pull them out now, it's halfway through the semester. Keep the work they've done. Document what they've done and the textbooks, what chapters, because if you sign up with a homeschooling board that specializes in high school, they can keep going. They can finish off this semester with that board, or that's what we did. My daughter went to high school for 2 months, didn't like it, and brought all her work, and then we just took up with a board and finished off. So got marks and credits for those courses. So all is not lost. Just I think
That's a
documentation is big in home ed, right? It really is.
yeah. This person says, I'm leaning towards unschooling. Can I work part-time during school hours? I read that you have to be available during the day while your child is learning.
Oh no, you don't have to be available during the day. We have to follow the laws on leaving kids home alone, and I think age 10 they can be left home alone, and age 12 they can be left home alone with siblings. But again, that's your call. But no, you don't have to be home with them. Not at all. Many home education parents work part-time and many work full-time, and their nanny does a lot of the home educating. Right?
Like I do some part-time work from home writing and I'll do that during the day sometimes or sometimes during the evening. I do it when I have a chance. So
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And you
Yeah.
can do home education in the evenings, you can do it on the weekends, you can do it whenever it suits your family and your own needs and your child's needs.
Right. There's no set hours. That's another question we get is how many set hours do we have to do things? And do we have to send assignments for marking into the government? No, you don't have set hours. You don't have to send anything in. Um, as you can see by the outcomes here, your child should demonstrate competence in using information technologies. But keep in mind, they don't have to master all these until age 20. So they don't have to do this year by year or grade by grade. That's how flexible home education is. But I guarantee you, every 20-year-old is going to have all these mastered.
The other thing someone's asking, are there any thoughts on applying for post-secondary with a background as a homeschooler? I'm wondering about transcripts and how to show progress when applying.
Yes. Okay. So if children are applying to Alberta post-secondaries, they would apply through Apply Alberta, which is a portal, and they would fill everything out. They have to list where they got their grade 12 courses, like which school supervised them under home education, what their mark was, how many credits, and then they just click which maybe University of Calgary, University of Alberta, um, Lethbridge College, and then those institutions pull from Apply Alberta, right? So you don't even have to send a transcript in. They pull because they can access transcripts through that Apply Alberta. If your child's applying out of province, like quite a few of mine did, um, then they do have to arrange with Alberta Ed to send a transcript from the government direct, and pay $10 or something. They don't trust parents to send them in. They have to send them themselves. So I can show you what a transcript, an Alberta Ed transcript looks like, because um, it doesn't really show anything about home education at all. Aha, here it is. Okay, there we go. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, The colors changed, but it's still the same transcript. So you can see, this is one of my kids, home educated, but you can't tell. So the school code is the school that reports the credit, the homeschooling board. And you can see we've been through a few of them, few of them, because they're all different numbers. So high school's like a buffet. You can take a course here, pick up a course here during the summer, pick up another course here. So you have a whole mix of schools reporting, right? And then they're reporting the course code, the course name, how many credits, and then what the school mark is, if it's a 30 level, the diploma exam mark right there. And then the combination of the school mark and the diploma exam mark is the final mark. Now, if you, let's say you unschool your child until they're age 19, haven't done any formal work, but your child has been very keen on science and computer science and math, and they just love those subjects. They have studied them on their own through out out school courses and Khan Academy, and they just love it. And they decide, I want to apply for computer engineering. So what they can do is just write the English language arts diploma exam, maybe one for social, and they can also write the diploma exams for math and the sciences they need. And their mark will be 100% that diploma exam mark. They don't need to take a course. But they have to be age 19 to do that. So it's kind of a way that unschoolers kind of slip in there at the end to get their marks and credits and then go on. So absolutely doable. So really, you don't need a high school diploma. Even if you don't go for a diploma, you will still have the government record, the transcript. Like the marks go on here. For those of you with grades kindergarten to grade 9, there is no transcript. There is no way those marks go anywhere because in home education, we don't give marks. Um, Even if you choose to have your kids write the provincial achievement tests, those marks aren't going anywhere either. Nothing official. So this is where, like I said, the rubber meets the road at high school. This is what Alberta Education and keeps track of. This is a permanent record until, mind you, if you fail an exam, I think physics on here was really, really bad. Yeah, it was really, really bad. And then my child rewrote physics and got a better, like 20 points better mark. So those are doable. So the better mark always goes on the transcript, which is kind of nice. Yeah. Um, any questions on the transcript?
Someone said, did how do I phrase it? Did it affect your child to like in getting into university or college because they had so many different schools reporting? They said they thought maybe that looked suspect and that a university or college might not like that.
Hmm. Um, you never know what people think, but not really. Um, Not really, because what? It's kind of sad, but there are so many people applying for so many seats in post-secondaries right now, in that the only thing actually the computer looks at is the competitive average of the required courses pretty well. And it's going to be high. So, no, I don't think a human ever looks at these transcripts. I think it's all computer based. And the number of applicants that apply for a certain year in, say, computer engineering, um, if the average of those applicants of those 5 grade 12 subjects is 93, the computer is going to cut off anybody under 93 for those seats and send out offers to anybody over 93 according to the number of seats they have. That's how it works. It's based on a competitive average of the required grade 12 subjects, and that's across Canada. Now, that's not saying a lot of the smaller colleges and the independent colleges will often look at portfolios and things like that. That's really good. I'm talking about the really competitive seats like nursing, engineering, computers, sciences, where they are have a lot of competition for those programs.
For sure. That was my experience too.
Yeah.
My child, this person says, this is another person. They say, my child is supposed to start grade 8 in September. If I start homeschooling, can she start grade 9 and skip grade 8? She's pretty bored with the current curriculum.
Absolutely.
And what I didn't add in when I answered it is that if she wants to, she could do grade 9 math and grade 8 English. Like meet your child where they're at, or grade 10 math and like wherever they're at.
Yes, absolutely, right? And yeah, and that's the beauty of home ed because I know in schools they don't like to promote kids a grade and they don't hold kids back. But like my kids never knew what number was on their anything. They didn't know they were in a grade. Um my daughter would be asked, "Oh, what grade are you in?" And she said, "Oh, I'm a level 80 hunter." Like she's playing World of Warcraft. But
Right.
they didn't have a number on their books until they got to high school. So you can go as fast or as slow as you want, and you can go all summer if you want. You can quit in December if you want. Like it's your ball game. You can do whatever.
It's part of the beauty of homeschooling.
Yeah, totally, totally the beauty. I'm just going to show one more thing here. This is a year-end report right here. So this is an example of, I changed the name, obviously, but this is grade 9 year-end report. So this is our spring visit in May. We followed the 22 outcomes. Obviously, in grade 10, we're going to switch to the Alberta Programs of Study. Most of our how we know learning happened was observation. We saw it happen. We talked to our kids, that kind of thing. We saw application of skills they learned. We took a lot of photos. We had theater tickets and certificates, journal records, and more photos. So basically, what they do is they put in their comments generally, and the teachers write down what you tell them and what the kids tell them pretty well. So if you say your child read The Lord of the Rings and a lot of Garfield books, they'll write it down. If you said what they do for math, what they do for science, and then the teacher signs it and pretty well says, in my opinion, the Alberta home education goals of basic education have been achieved and by the student who is eligible for a more formal grade 10 meeting APS outcomes. So there you go, one page. And this is really good for all your family that says, I don't know about home education. So it's kind of a nice form. Okay, do we have any more questions?
Someone's asking, is it possible to join a board and get funding for a child who is enrolled in a part-time community preschool, assuming that they are kindergarten aged?
Hmm. I think so because preschool, if you're mostly parents pay for that, right? If you're paying preschool fees, I would ask the board though. Things like funding, I would ask the board, but I think it might be covered, but I'm not going to say yes or no, but yeah, probably best to ask the board you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Is their kid, if they're, now what is it, 4 years by,
I think it's 4 years and 8 months by September 1st.
yeah, 4 years and 8 months by September 1st. So 5 years by December 31st. Oh, yeah, I always get that met. Yeah. Yeah, that should, if they're that age.
Yeah. Um, and that answers the question, what's the youngest age you can start homeschooling? 4 years and 8 months by September 1st of the year you want to start. Mm. There's a bunch of people wanting copies of the presentation, so how would they go about getting a copy of this presentation?
We're going to put it on the Alberta Homeschooling website and yeah, so they can watch it from there. Yeah. I just want to say how much time does home education take? Um, and again, you look at the media and they say, "Oh, do you want to be homeschooling 6 hours a day?" Just because a teacher handles a class of 30 kids for 6 hours a day doesn't mean it's going to you know, take you 6 hours a day to teach. So elementary grades take about 10 to 30 minutes, depending. Now, if your child is doing a worksheet and they're dawdling, that doesn't count. But junior high, maybe 1 hour a day, and we're talking book work, right? That's not field trips. Grade 12, when my kids did grade 12 through home education, it was about 2 to 3 hours a day. And that's it. Like they had no homework, which was a big selling point for them. They could still do jobs and have some free time and stuff. And we always get the socialization question. The thing about home ed too is kids are not thrown together with people that they wouldn't normally associate with. They come together based on their interests and they have a lot of socialization. And the introverts can stay home more if they want. The extroverts can go out more if they want. Um, it's very much geared to each child's level. As long as kids have one good friend growing up, and this is
Garbage, okay? Oh, but not contain.
oh,
Sorry.
if kids have one good friend and it can be a sibling through their childhood, that's all they need. They don't need like groups of friends. Unlike the media, they don't need hordes and classrooms of friends. You know, kids just need to learn basic socialization, like taking turns, lining up, being a good person. And you can certainly teach that.
Sure.
Hey, what do you think? Did we get everybody or
I think we got most of the questions. There's some that are really specific to high school, and we have a high school session coming up, I think. I'd
yeah.
have to when that is.
I would be happy to stay on with those high school people. We could just kind of close a session. So, because we are recording it, right?
Yeah,
Why don't we close the session and then I can stay on and talk to the high school people.
sounds good.
Okay. So I'm just going to end with the benefits. Kids learn a lot of confidence and self-esteem. Especially those teenagers get to sleep in a lot and they become, a little nicer when they get sleep. It's really relaxed. You got time for interests. Close siblings. My kids now are ages 20 to 30 and they live in different country, different city. And like tonight, they're all getting together despite the time difference and gaming over Discord. So they grew up close, they stay close, which is kind of nice because the family is the focus, not the peer group. It's big, you stay together as a good family. They learn great work habits. They learn for the sake of learning, not for pizza coupons. They have good social skills, and it's a one-on-one education. So, lots of benefits there. And we hope you like this presentation. And like Krista said, we have high school coming up the end of May. And we have, yeah, I think we have a few more webinars coming up. Just check the front page of albertahomeschooling.ca. All righty, great. Well, thank you. I am going to close this off. And I just want to assure you, you can do it. I know first year for everybody, it's like that first year of parenting, bringing that newborn home. You're like, oh, I know they trust me with this. And you will get the hang of it really fast. And it's only for a year you're committing, not life. There's a lot of support out there. And you just can't stop kids from learning. They're going to keep learning whether they're taught or not. So you can do it. Hey, Krista, any last words from you?
No, I totally agree with you on that. Like it seems scary when you're taking a step off a cliff like that with homeschooling, but it for my family it's been right. Like anybody can do it. It's something you can do. So I hope you leave this presentation feeling empowered and feeling like, yeah, I can do this too.
Yeah, for sure. You absolutely can. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to end this here. So thanks for coming and bye-bye, everybody. The high schoolers, please stay on. I'm just going to stop the recording.